a very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching Reset India with your host, Kriti Mishra. Our special show focuses on all the key areas where restructuring, revamping, or resetting is required to bolster India's economic growth. And today we are going to discuss a very imperative topic, job creation and workers' welfare through skilling and reskilling. Skill development is of paramount importance in today's changing business environment and market conditions. And to discuss the way forward, I'm joined by very esteemed guests on the panel today. Joining me is Mr. S.B. Singh, DDG, Director General of Employment, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Dr. Dale Koshy, Senior FICCI Skill Development Committee Member, and Mr. Arun Kumar Pillai, Chief Strategy Officer, NSDC. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And before we commence our discussion, few insights for our viewers. The National Skill Development Mission was launched by the government on July 15, 2015. Under Skill India Mission, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana scheme was unveiled to skill 1 crore people across the country from 2016 to 2020. Under the scheme, more than 42 lakh candidates have been trained and 33.66 lakh candidates have been certified under short-term training courses. Out of these certified candidates, 17.54 lakh candidates have been provided with placement. Also, 49.12 lakh candidates who already have the informal skills but are not formally certified have been oriented under recognition of prior learning. For conduct of short-term skill training, 14,373 skill training centers have been impaneled so far. Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana was launched to boost employment in the formal sector and incentivize creation of new employment opportunities during the COVID recovery phase under Atmanirbhar Bharat Package 3.0. A SEAM portal was launched in July 2020 as a directory of skilled persons in the country. Job offers have been made to 14 lakh skilled personnel and details of 1.3 crore onboarded on a SEAM portal. And let's go back to our guests. Mr. Pillai, coming to you first. India is a powerhouse of skill and talent. The Government of India launched the Skill India Mission in the year 2015. What has changed for India since then?
So the government, as you rightly said, the government launched the Skill India Mission in 2015. Since then, some of the building blocks of the skill development have been well established. If you can look at when I say building blocks, the first thing is the entire training partner network. So today we have close to, the way you rightly described, we are close to around 14,000 training centers across the country. So the capacity creation has been the first area of focus. So today we have in every district one model skill training center called Prime Minister's Kaushal Kendra. So access, capacity creation has been one area of focus. The second area of focus has been the sector skill councils. So the industry connect for this whole Skill India program happens through the sector skill councils. So we have 37 sector skill councils which work with industry to create the standards. They also do the the assessment, certification, and also they support the placement and apprenticeship. The third piece is the government sponsorship of skill development programs. So if you see the central government's, the scheme which you just mentioned, Prime Minister's Kaushal Vikas Yojana, has just got over. It has trained around 10 million people over the last 4 years in short-term training and recognition of prior learning. So the government has invested 8,000 to 9,000 crore in this space in terms of skill development. Of course, this is supplemented by various state skill development missions, which are also contributing towards the entire Skill India mission. The last piece is putting all this together. We have what is called a Skill India portal. So the entire training today is reported on a Skill India portal. There is convergence which happens. So the trainings under the various central ministries, the trainings under the various state governments, everything is captured on the portal, the training centers, etc. So these are like although there have been many achievements, broadly these are 4 areas. The access being created, the entire industry linkage to the Sector Skill Council, the entire the government sponsorship of the training programs, and last, the entire thing being captured on an IT system.
All right, so there are tangible changes after the Skill India Mission was launched. Coming to you, Mr. Singh, various legislative, administrative, e-governance initiatives have been launched by your Ministry for Job Creation. We also saw the recent labour codes that were passed by the Parliament, and also talking about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana. What is going to be the impact of all these measures on job creation in the year 2021?
Actually, you rightly said the priority concern of the government is employment generation. India has a large percentage, about 64.3% of the population in the working age group, that is 15 to 59 years. And in the next decade, it is expected that we will add another 97 lakhs on an average per year. So it's a huge task to provide employment for this to our population, and government is very much concerned about these things. We have already taken various steps to generating employment in the country, like encouraging private sector of economy, fast tracking various projects involving substantial investment, and increasing public expenditure on schemes such as Prime Minister Employment Generation Programs, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Labour Guarantee Schemes, Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushalya Vikas Yojana, and similarly, recently government has launched a new program, Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana. I will give you the details about this schemes, this scheme later on. But now recently, Ministry has passed Parliament has passed 4 labor codes which were pending since long, yes. And these are Code on Wages Act, Code on Occupational Safety and Health, Code on Industrial Relations, and Code on Social Security. These codes will generate, with these codes, government is making effort for facilitating ease of doing business by reducing compliance burden for establishment through simplification, rationalization, and consolidation of existing 29 labor codes, and codifying them in 4 codes and ensuring them their implementation through transparent and hassle-free system. This will create an enabling environment for investment and employment creation.
Yes, sir.
I was telling you about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana. Employment generation remains a critical priority of the government, and various steps have been taken in this regard by way of providing capital subsidy, ensure wage security, employment security, and social security to workers. In order to translate this vision into action, the Government of India announced the Atmanirbhar Bharat 3.0 package containing several stimulus measures to revive the economy and provide relief to stressed sectors. As a part of the package, Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana scheme has been conceptualized to incentivize creation of new employment and restoration of loss of employment during the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to realize the vision, government has launched the Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana with an objective to incentivize creation of new employment opportunity during COVID recovery phase by extending assistance to the employer of establishment registered with EPFO so as to encourage recruitment of persons, including re-employment of those who were rendered unemployed during the pandemic. The ABRY scheme shall remain open for registration of eligible employers and new employees between 1st October 2020 and 30th June 2021. The benefit under this scheme shall remain valid for 2 years from the date of registration during stipulated time frame, that is up to the wage month of 31st May 2023. The scheme envisages coverage of an employee drawing monthly wages of less than rupees 15,000 or who have joined the EPFO setup on or after 1st October 2020 and is allotted at Aadhaar validated universal account number. Eligibility criteria for establishment has been defined under the scheme as a minimum 2 new employee for establishment.
Absolutely, sir. So several schemes have been launched, several measures have been taken, and let's get an industry perspective here. Dr. Koshi, industry often complains that the job seekers do not have right skill sets. But when we look at the contribution of the industry in skill development, that is limited. 99% of investment comes from government. What kind of policy is required, or what kind of regulatory environment is required to boost private investment in the skill development space?
Thank you, Kriti. First of all, we must look at in a positive manner that, till 2009, with the first national skill development policy, there has been a genuine effort from the government to place focus clearly on skilling India's youth. In 2014-15, I think it went several levels ahead by placing a complete framework, as Mr. Pillai explained, in place, including a dedicated ministry for the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So obviously, government has taken this proactive step because there has been a feeling that with just 2% of the people being genuinely skilled at 2009, and now about 5% of the population being skilled, and we have recently seen a report where we are placed at 121 among 161 countries, with just one person out of, just about 20% of the population being somewhat skilled. So obviously, there is a long way to go. Industry means manufacturing industry, the contribution to the GDP is just about 16-17%. That itself has been stagnant because of various reasons. And in the COVID crisis, there is a contraction of demand as well as a contraction of those activities, though now the green shoots are visible and it's picking up. The services sector just grew exponentially and it generated large number of jobs. And I think NASSCOM and such people took up a great deal of effort in terms of skilling for services sector, ITES sector a great deal. But in the case of manufacturing, you are obviously right when you say that there has not been sufficient industry proactiveness in terms of apprenticeship or in terms of on-the-job training or in terms of skilling infrastructure. So I think the NSDC's efforts to bring in partners from the industry and the government's thrust in the recent past to give even the employer themselves, the capacity for training in terms of funding them to train and employ themselves. So all these have helped in improving the climate of the activity towards skilling. But what we need to understand is there is a youth seeking employment and employer seeking employable youth. There is a great divide because we have seen that it is not easy when you say what kind of skills are required by the industry. Right. There is a lag between the kind of skill, the QPs or the qualification packs and the NOs which are formed and probably what is required by the industry. So that is where the dialogue between the industry or the corporates and the companies and the PIAs, the project implementing agencies, and the whole system needs to become more and more like a jugalbandi, so that there is a more active participation, active collaboration in terms of skilling efforts. But I must say that with the 135 amendment of the Companies Act, where CSR funds were allowed to be brought into the skilling arena, there has been substantial improvement in terms of a higher level of skilling coming into forefront. Because earlier all the schemes which are done by the government are mostly entry-level skills, and they are often exposed to the challenges of automation, artificial intelligence, blockchain, various kinds of Industry Revolution 4.0 issues. Yes. But the industry has the capacity to invest a little more advanced infrastructure and take up the onus of training these people under the CSR, which is a substantial amount. And if you look at the performance of the CSR in terms of directing it to this effort has been still lackadaisical. There is a more effort required in terms of focused efforts at a higher level skilling. You can always catch the low-hanging fruits, which everybody is doing. But that is not enough for India because the productivity is lagging behind, the competitiveness is eroding, and there is huge job losses. More or less, I was reading 404 million jobs came down to something like 282 or something, losing about 122 million jobs. Obviously, it will take time to come up to that level. And this year is a complete blank. So there will be a big rush for skilling people. And I see that in the next few months or few years, the skilling activity has to be scaled up by existing good players to a great deal, and for the companies to invest much more from the CSR funds towards directed, advanced skill levels. So I have
Dr. Koshy, you made a very important point there about disruptive technologies, about emerging technologies, about Industrial Revolution 4.0.
Exactly.
Just hold your thoughts there. Before that,
Right.
I would like to talk about new normal. Mr. Pillai, I know the government launched the Bharat Skills Portal, the ASEEM portal. How did you navigate through this new normal, and how do we prepare ourselves for this new normal?
So let me tell you that it has been a very difficult year for skill development. This this last 1 year, almost all the skill training institutes are either they are closed, or even if they are in operation, probably the capacity utilization is very low actually. So it's a new normal in many ways, you know. So what is the positive thing which has come out is we see the first green shoots of digital skilling happening. We are seeing that training companies which were relying essentially on face-to-face or classroom kind of training, they have started experimenting with models where digital skilling is possible. Now, how much of it is possible is a thing which is what we will have to explore in the next 1 year, and I think this is very significant. Therefore, eventually at the end of this year, probably we'll end up at a blended model where there would be an element of classroom training supported with digital skilling. So this would be a key change in the way skilling is developed, the way skilling is delivered. So that's one big change. Second big change is what Mr. Koshi just referred, because the big challenge is the demand supply mismatch. You know, we train people in some parts of the country, but the jobs are in other parts of the country. And it's very difficult. You know, the migration story is also not a very easy story for a trainee or for a worker, etc. We have seen the challenges of the migration, etc. during the COVID phase. So therefore, how do we bridge this demand supply mismatch is a big challenge which we need to address. But here also, you mentioned ASEEM. ASEEM is a great solution because it's a technology solution which tries to match demand in some parts of the country with the supply from other parts of the country. Similarly, if you look at the government itself has gone on a decentralization drive as far as skill development is concerned.
Yes.
The new schemes, if you see, they are being conceived with the district skill committee as one of the agency in the whole. Otherwise, it was almost everything driven from a very centralized perspective. So what is expected is that district skill committees would have a better perspective of what is the employment requirement in the local economy and also the aspirations of the local youth, etc. So this is an attempt being done. So this decentralization attempt is another big another big area which we will see. So this is number 2. Number 3 would be inclusion. I think you briefly mentioned about women participation.
Yes.
But COVID has further, actually it has aggravated the situation. The women participation has further gone down. So how do we look at...
All right. So women participation is a very important component. Let me take that to Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh,
Sure.
at this juncture, I'm also reminded what Vice President of India said. He underscored the need to reduce the gender gap in STEM jobs or increase the participation of women. So talking about a broader perspective, how do we increase their participation and also increase the participation of Divyangs?
Actually, we have, you rightly said that increasing the women participation in the labor force is a big challenge. And we are working on this direction. Recently, we have made some changes also in the labor codes. Maternity Benefits Act has also been revised to facilitate better provisions for women. And recently, we have also brought some notification where the women are also allowed in mines earlier, which was not their field. Then women working in night shifts has also been allowed by the ministry in a notification. We in the ministry we are having a NCS portal, a digital solution for job matching. As rightly pointed out by Mr. Pillai, there is a demand, there is a supply, but it's a mismatch. To how to bridge this gap. NCS portal is their National Career Service Portal, which has been launched by the ministry in 2015. At present, we are having roughly 1 crore job seekers and roughly 1 lakh employers are there. Active job seekers and active employers are there. But just what Mr. Pillai has referred, they are also having a portal there in their ministry, ASEEM portal and MSD portal is and SDMS portal is also there. So there are variety of portals, employment portals in the country. Some of the portals are different ministries are also having some portals, Even private players are also having portals for employment portals. So these type of things are creating somewhat confusion in the mind of job seekers. Recently, a working group has been formed with the initiative of MITI to make a unified platform of employment generation portals, wherein all these portals, either it is from MSD or it is from MSME. Recently, Niti Aayog is also working on one employment platform, Unnati, which is basically for blue-collared workers, where they are on the basis of their skill, the job opportunities will be provided.
That's
to
a
them.
very important point that you're making, sir. Yes, sir. That we need to have a unified approach. We need to have a coordinated approach. But Dr. Koshi, the aim of the government is to develop India into skill capital of the world. How do we reorient our approach according to global demands?
See, I have been participating in the World Skills Competition since Sao Paulo in 2015, and then of course we have seen in Abu Dhabi in 2017, and in 2019 we have seen the Kazan in Russia. One of the things which struck me is that yes, India won a gold in the water technology in the last year, and also got a bronze medal in another area. But it was a late starter. India became a member practically only by 2007, where this has been from 1952 onwards. The World Skills Organization has been functioning. So we have to get aligned with the type of skill levels. Take the example of fashion technology, which I'm more familiar with.
Yes.
There are some 152 parameters on which a candidate who is competing in fashion technology is being assessed. And our students who have gone in the last 3 years, if you see, the gap of points between the top winner and the Indian participant is something like 70 points down. That means that despite 30 years of our leading fashion institutes being in the country or design institutes being in the country, we have not adequately addressed the global skill levels of speed, precision, finesse in terms of how to put it all together in a manner in which the world understands that product as something which is of that standard. So that is where I think the skill ministry, the skilling institutions need to raise the bar.
Yes.
Because if we have to just remain as in the Human Development Index at 131 and in the skilling levels at 121 among 162 countries, we can ourselves do not pat on the back. We need all of us from the top to bottom, we need to raise the level of the skilling intensity. And the digital opportunity has provided that kind of an opportunity for the first time post-COVID. Why I am agreeing with Mr. Pillai is that the skill intensity of each course, there are some 4,000 courses available on the ministry's portal. And if you take that example and put it into a matrix to look at the theoretical lab content intensity of the skill level training where physical training is required, you will find probably that in a course of 740 hours, maybe about 240 or 300 hours will require a physical presence. And then you can actually completely change this matrix and reduce the cost of the training for people and then offer this training in a manner in which a lot of it is still offered through digital medium. So that is one great possibility emerging because of the post-COVID new normal which is coming in.
Absolutely.
So
that's a very, very legit point that you're making, Dr. Koshi. Yeah. But I just have last 90 seconds left on the show and closing comments from all my guests. Mr. Pillai, skilling India and reaping the demographic dividend. Your thoughts, sir?
So let me put it this way. 2009, when we started, we set a target that we will skill 50 crore Indians by 2022, which is the 75th year of independence. We are in 2021, and we have done around 7 to 8 crore Indians in this period. So, but what we have done is really remarkable is that we have got all the building blocks in place. What is required now over the next decade, is to actually accelerate the whole thing. And that is where digital comes in. Like when we mentioned, Koshi mentioned about digital, the idea is how do you move from 8 crores to say for 30, 40 crores? Yes. It cannot be done by putting up more classrooms. It can be only done through digital. So therefore, it is time that we get to this blended model. The second piece, before I just close on this.
Yes, sir.
is again what he mentioned about benchmarking our entire skill ecosystem to the best in the world, so that the dream of what you just mentioned of being a skill capital can only be realized when we are able to benchmark ourselves to world. So focus on these two things,
benchmarking is
focus on
very
digital,
important.
focus on demand supply linkages being better done using technology, focus on benchmarking over this, and focus on inclusion. Get these four things in place, probably in a decade's time, we would be having some of the best skill development ecosystems in the world.
Absolutely. Dr. Singh, closing comments, last 30 seconds, sir.
Actually, we have seen lot of challenges during last year, and I think 2021 is a really will be a really good opportunity for us. There are three areas which government is taking initiative. Number one, education. Number two is skilling, and number three, investment opportunities for youth, so that they can come up with self-employment also. And I think with this we'll be able to solve our
Dr. Koshi, closing comments.
Yeah, 2022, India as a country is celebrating 75 years post-independence. And the United Nations Population Fund study says that our golden window of this demographic bulge or demographic dividend possibility exists till 2056. And the tapering of this will start by 2030. So I feel this decade of 2021 to 2030, we need to really focus on the very, very productive areas of our, manufacturing, services sector, as well as value addition, value creation possibilities in every sector. And the skilling should become creativity plus skills is the biggest strength of India. All other countries are talking skills, but India is a country, country is full of, creativity everywhere. So if you can combine creativity and skills, India will go to another level. Like technology has helped us in IT technology, we will have another, great innings going forward.
Right. On that optimistic note, thank you so much for joining us. So skilling, reskilling and upskilling, all these things are of paramount importance and need of the hour. That's all we had for you in this edition of Reset India. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha Television.